Hi, this is Kathy from Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. I can't wait to share this episode with you. I spoke to Eleanor McDonald, and what stood out to me was how real and raw her journey has been. She had to unlearn some of the deepest crap we carry, the patterns of self sabotage and self abandonment. Those times when we look to someone else to make us happy and lose ourselves in the process. I know I identify with so much of what she is talking about, and I'm pretty sure some of you will as well. Eleanor's story is powerful because she doesn't just talk about finding love. She shows how the first step is learning to stop abandoning yourself, to create true love, whether it's with a partner or within. You have to choose you first. What I love about this conversation is how she weaves her own healing into the way she now helps women, especially women over 40 who are searching for love but keep repeating the same painful patterns. Eleanor shows that it's possible to unlearn those self sabotaging cycles. Open your heart, trust your intuition, and finally experience love from a place of wholeness. Join me in my conversation with Eleanor.
Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Welcome to another episode of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. Your soul is calling. My name is Kathy Baldwin and I am your host. As you know, Unlearn the Crap is more than just the conditioned responses and automatic programming that our brain turns into limiting beliefs or takes us into bad habits. It is also the physical component of our body, mind, and soul. It is the connection between our three brains, our brain, our heart, our gut. It is the physical manifestation of the energetic disempowerment that takes us away so that we cannot level up. And so here on our podcast, we are discussing all of those details so that you can unlearn your crap and level up because your soul is calling you and the world is waiting. Welcome to Unlearn the Crap, Eleanor. I'd like to introduce our next guest. It's Eleanor McDonald. And Eleanor, would you
Thank
mind
you.
telling everybody what crap you needed to unlearn so that you could level up?
Yes, absolutely. I love everything you're saying because it's so aligned with what I've learned. And the biggest thing was around not sabotaging myself and abandoning myself and looking towards other people to, create my happiness. And you can't find true love for yourself, self-love, or love with another while you're abandoning and sabotaging yourself. So all of the crap of unlearning those sabotaging patterns and abandoning patterns is what I had to unlearn.
Absolutely. I love that. So now that you have unlearned that crap, how are you leveling up and serving the world with your zone of genius?
Thank you. Well, I'm being my true self as much as I possibly can in every moment. And when I'm in that space, truly connected to myself, I find that the opportunities just keep calling me. As you were saying, your soul is calling. And I keep getting led towards my next leveling up, whether it's helping more women around the world to unlearn their crap and unlearn those patterns, or to deeply be more and more in love with myself, or to be more connected to my husband. So that's another story we can get into, of finding love for myself. Um, but it's just given me the chance to follow my intuition, to finally learn to trust it, and to open my heart and live from my heart.
Absolutely. What I wanted us to address at this opening was how you serve the world. So, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I am trying to guide you a little bit to tell everybody you help people when they are finding their true love. Am I correct?
Mhm. Yes. I mostly focus on women, but of course I've had male clients and anyone is welcome. But it's been mostly women who are over 40, who are looking for love and who have had issues with those sabotaging type of patterns that I had, and the self-abandoning. So whether you want to call it codependency or people pleasing or issues around that, and helping to unlearn those so that they can stay connected or even connect to themselves for the very first time and find love from that space rather than from always externally trying to please somebody else, which you can't find a great relationship when you're in that space.
Absolutely. So, for one of the reasons that I really wanted you on this podcast is for that exact reason.
Mhm.
I did not know about the condition responses and automatic programming. I didn't know about crap when I left home, and I carried, my first 18 years of things that I'd learned, and there were quite a few traumatic things that happened to me during those
Mm.
formative years. And so then I went out into the dating world. I made every mistake that was possible and ended up in a marriage to a wonderful man with his own crap. And of
Mhm.
course, the marriage, even though we tried for almost 20 years, the marriage failed. Both of us had a lot of unlearning to do. And when I look back on my history, there is a direct correlation into the traumas and crap that I carried from my childhood and my growing up years into my dating life and the man that I chose.
Yeah.
And all of the work that I needed to do and heal definitely bubbled up without me knowing that's what was happening. And it created an extremely chaotic relationship. Is that normal?
Absolutely. That's the one thing that I am always telling women, is that everything that you've done up till this point, you can say it makes perfect sense that you've been doing that based on your history, based on your experience, based on your conditioning and what you were taught and told, and the society, societal messages. So one of the things to unlearn is that it's not your fault, that even though we have to do this healing journey, it's not our fault that we ended up in this space in the first place. And I would argue that it's probably one of the biggest catalysts for having this amazing healing journey and for experiencing an amazing connection with yourself and others, is to start off at that point you were talking about. And I also had the same experience, where I grew up in a family that there was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of volatility, and I didn't have those role models. And so then going out into the world, it's like, oh, okay, what am I going to look for? Who am I going to look for? And it's just connecting to all of those kinds of traumas, or externally experiencing those traumas over and over again, until you're able to. I got to an enough is enough point when I was in my 40s, and I said, I'm not going to go around this merry-go-round, is what I call it, the merry-go-round, ever again. And this is my enough is enough point, where I know that I deserve more. I desire more. I want a lasting, authentic love relationship with myself, with someone else. And then that really started my really deep healing. But I kind of went off a little track with there a little bit, but yes, absolutely. It is absolutely normal, and that's the first thing I would say is to not beat yourself up, to not be like, "Oh, I can't believe I've done that," or "I chose this person," or "I did this or did that." All of these things make perfect sense based on your experiences and your upbringing.
Yeah. You've touched on it. Would you mind being vulnerable and sharing with us your story?
Absolutely not. I feel like my story is one of the things that will help women realize that they're not alone. That's number one, and that they can get past what they're really struggling with. So I tended to choose, when I left home at 18, I was choosing relationships that were based on the other person, like who should I be as a good girl, as a people pleasing girl, what kind of relationship should I choose, and it was based on the other person and what would make them happy, and not really authentically being myself. I wasn't able to. I didn't even know who I was at that point. And so basically deferring to the other person and saying, well, I'm going to be like this and you could be like this and let's be in a nice happy relationship. But it wasn't based on anything solid or real or authentic. And I kept doing that over and over again for decades of that's really I would say toxic relationships that were emotionally chaotic and just going around in circles, that same merry-go-round of emotional distress from both sides, and not really knowing why, or why was there so much chaos in my life, and why was there so much emotional upheaval. And so I went from this, from the frying pan into the fire, basically, of each relationship. And when I was in my 40s, I actually reunited with my first boyfriend. So talk about full circle. Here's the moment. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy. This is, we're star-crossed lovers and this was meant to be. And I really leaned into the spiritual aspect that I truly believe that we were meant to be together forever, like a fairy tale. And it crashed and burned probably worse than any relationship I'd had up until that point, and left me metaphorically on my hands and knees, basically saying, what do I need to do? What am I missing? Why can't I have love? Why have I gone on such a long journey like this? And just really feeling very hopeless and kind of rock bottom. And that was when I heard that voice. I would say my true self, or my heart, started to whisper to me, you deserve love. You deserve true, lasting, authentic love and meaningful give and take. And so I went on a very earnest journey to go inward, because I had been so externally focused, to go inward within myself and find all of these hurt places, all of the spaces that told me I had to please others, that I wasn't worthy to be myself, that I was afraid to, be seen, and all of these really big themes, and started to witness them and heal that part of myself and go out into the world. It was a year later saying, okay, I'm going to date again, but this time with intention, with purpose, and focused on myself, while, still connecting to other people, but from my own space. And I met my husband after 10 days on a dating app. And um, it was, I would say at that point, that was meant to be in a space of the new kind of love that I was looking for. And it was really meant to be um, for real that time, like for real. And we've been together for 7 years and married. And the other thing that people say to me is like, "Oh, is it, do you fight or is it perfect?" And they get worried that I'm saying it's like a perfect fairy tale. And that's not the case. I have the tools to communicate authentically, to be more vulnerable, to speak up when I feel something is wrong or is not, something that I like. And, saying that I don't like something has been very difficult. And being able to talk to someone who's willing to talk to me, who's willing to talk it out in in a very beautiful and vulnerable way. And so it's not perfect. We have our issues, but there's a space there that we can work things out, and that's the difference.
Absolutely. I want to challenge you or clarify one of your points, and
Yes.
that is the word perfect.
Mhm.
Because we have in our head that perfect means no conflict, no challenges, easy road, live happily ever after. And
Yeah.
that is crap. And that is part of the
Absolutely.
fairy tale that we've been given is that's what it's supposed to look like. But
Yes.
what you just described to me sounds perfect. It's when we find these challenges, when we have these conflicts, we have the tools and the resources to
Mm.
effectively deal with them together, where it
Yes.
brings us closer together rather than pitting us against each other. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes. So it could be, perfectly imperfect and perfect for you. You can also look at it that way. So anyone who's watching it's your perfect scenario. Like, what would be an amazing lifestyle? And that's what I say to people who are looking for something that might have a list of, characteristics or whatever it is of the person. But I say, go beyond that. Like, what kind of life do you want to live with them? How much time do you want to spend with them? Do you want to have dinner every evening, or do you want to go on weekend getaways? Or would you rather be more independent, where they have their life and their schedule is different than yours, but you know that you're always connected at the most important level? And so, what is perfect for you, and what kind of life do you want to be living with them? It goes beyond the list of, what's good on paper, because that's what I was doing in the previous years. Like, oh, my life is perfect on paper. I have this amazing, handsome boyfriend, and I've got this career and everything's great, and yet I'm feeling miserable. I feel alone. I feel unfulfilled. And there was a reason for that, because it was just the paper that was saying it was perfect. It wasn't my heart.
Yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up because so many times when we are in these dysfunctional relationships, we have deep love, we
Hmm.
have deep commitment, and we think that's supposed to be enough. That
Yes.
love alone, but love is a choice. And so when we consistently choose to love somebody, when we're not aligned, all we're
Hmm.
doing is creating chaos, correct?
Yes, yes, and then your soul will try to speak to you, or your, like you were saying in the beginning, the connection between body, mind, and spirit. Like, your body might start to show physical distress, with getting illnesses, or feeling fatigued, or some. It's like your body is trying to say to you, "This is not right," and it's taking all of my energy to, that people pleasing thing, where I'm going to try really hard and I'm going to give this another chance, and the old college try again and again. And you yeah, exactly. You keep doing that until you're pretty much in burnout or adrenal fatigue or something, because you're trying to force and or chase after something that is just exhausting, and it keeps running away the more you chase it.
Yeah. When I was in my marriage and there were red flags that told me this isn't right, this isn't working, there were a lot of underlying traumas that both him and I did not look at or address.
Hmm.
But one of the things going through my mind was something that I heard Dr. Phil say, which was sometimes we make the right decision and sometimes we need to make the decision right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was what was going through my mind was, okay, well, maybe I didn't make the right decision and choose the perfect partner and get married at the right time when I would, but now I've made that decision. Now I have to make it right. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
constantly trying to force it, make it happen when it wasn't ever supposed to fit. Do I
Yeah.
think that my ex-husband and I came together for a reason and a season? Absolutely. We were both aligned with our traumas and we forced each other to look at the mirror and take a look at what was going on in ourselves.
Yeah.
And that was what we needed for us to level up. Is
Exactly.
that what you see in your clients? And did that happen with you?
Absolutely. I was the forcing queen. I was the type A, like, okay, we're gonna get this, we're gonna get the books, we're gonna get the courses, we're gonna do the self-help thing on relationships. I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna work really hard to get well so that we can make this relationship work. And there comes a time where it's really a subtle thing where you have to decide. It's kind of like the point of no return, where you've put in the effort and it doesn't feel right anymore. But it has to be a sense of knowing. This is where you're connected to yourself. It's an inner knowing to say, it's time for me to move on. And that's different for everyone. I could never tell anyone. I can't sit there and say, oh, yes, you've done all these things, you should move on or you should stay or go. I never will answer that. I always say to people, this is about your inner knowing. What is whispering inside of you to say, it's time to let this go. And it's a very quiet, subtle knowing that will grow over time the more you get used to checking in with yourself. And sometimes you'll even be, the universe will help you along a little bit where something will happen and it will dissolve in a way that you're like, wow, that was kind of easier than I thought. Or it might be an abrupt, dissolution. Like some of my relationships, all of a sudden it was just like, it's over and it's done. And, we're moving on, and it's kind of jarring. But when you move with yourself and your knowing and move towards what feels like the direction you need to go in, things take care of themselves. And so I would say if you're pushing, forcing, and banging your head against the wall or going around the merry-go-round or whatever analogy you want, it's time to stop and listen and go within and just, search for that whisper of your heart, your intuition. What is it saying to you? How do you feel? What could be your next step today, tomorrow, next week that will move you towards your aligned heart?
Yeah, that is so true. One of my founding principles that I bring into my podcast and my books and when I'm working with clients is the belief that at any point in time we can stop and make a decision. But at
Mm-hmm.
some point, if we don't, the universe or our body or our
Mm-hmm.
health or our wealth or
Yep.
whatever will take us down because we
Mm-hmm.
can only be misaligned for so long.
Yep.
Eventually, it breaks like any
Yes.
other piece of machinery.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working with your clients or even yourself, do you
Mm-hmm.
find that people are trying to hold on past the breaking point? Or how do you better yet, let me ask you it this way. How do you recommend that we identify earlier that this is headed for a break and we
Yeah.
can stop it earlier?
Well, I would kind of go back even further because I love the preparation and intention before you go into a relationship. If I will answer that question if once you're in the relationship, but I like to go back further because the true change is when you make a choice to go into a relationship where you are aligned in the first place. It's like that's your intention. Is this what you're looking for? The kind of relationship where you can be yourself and grow and interact and whatever it is. And I'm not saying that those relationships always work out, because they don't. But at least you have a space within to, to learn about yourself and grow. And it's more aligned, and you get to feel what that feels like to be in an aligned space. So that's kind of, whether you're coming out of a relationship and you're looking for a new one, or, you haven't had much experience finding the kind of relationship you're looking for, that's something to think about. If you're in the middle of a relationship right now where you're like, I just don't know what to do, the other person is not going to solve it for you. They're not going to give you that choice, and they're not going to give you your knowing. That's always going to go back to you once again. Like, the recommendation is always, what are you feeling on a daily basis? What do you desire? Can you bring that to your partner? And then assessing how they respond is also a good, um, way to look at it. Like, oh, if they're not responding to anything I'm saying, if it's like talking to a blank wall, if I feel like I'm alone in the relationship, that's going to give you a clue if you start to head towards those kind of
Yeah,
situations. So,
absolutely. What you're saying so aligns with my Drive Your Destiny program,
mhm.
which is about the rule book of understanding how we're able to drive our own body and our mind. Which, in a perfect world, when we're learning to drive a car, we start with the learner's permit and we're given a book and we have the rules of the road so we know what to expect. And then we're
Mhm.
taught about the vehicle, which, how do we drive it? What do the signals work? How does this happen? What does it feel like? What does it look like? And then the third part is about our GPS, which, in a perfect world, we would have all of that information before we were sent out into the world to navigate. But
Yeah.
generally, we are sent out into the world and told, trying not to crash and burn too bad.
Mhm.
What you just said made me think that we're not given the user's manual on our life and our body. We're not given the user manual on how to be a parent, but we're also not given a user manual on how to identify who we are and what is our best relationship. And I
Mhm.
know for me, part of my healing journey was to realize that I could build my identity around the same principles as building a business. What's my vision? What's my mission?
Mhm.
What are my boundaries? What are my goals? What are my morals? What are my beliefs? And I could choose them.
Yes.
Is that basically similar to what you recommend before we go out into a dating world?
Yes, I think that's where I focus all my attention, is giving those instructional manuals that we can pick up at any time to have, like, master your intuition to find love. That's one course I have, and ending online dating frustration. And basically, you're taking those manuals and learning how to date, how to, you know, approach dating intentionally, purposefully, in your heart, how to, cut through the BS and find someone who is authentic, how to recognize someone who's unavailable before you get involved. So it's all of this instructional type of thing, which I believe, like you said, you can take anything from a career or different areas of your life and put it towards dating and finding a relationship. And it doesn't have to be so clinical as what I'm saying. It's a lot of journaling and inner work, and there's a lot of introspective space there. But it does have that sort of how to feel to it, because we were just never told that we could do it that way, that we could be really prepared, that we could be just like going into it completely empowered and
Yeah.
dating differently.
Yeah. You brought up 2 points that I wanna make sure that we cover. One of them was dating online. So I'm bringing that
Mhm.
up now so we can come back to it and I don't forget it.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
have a tendency to get really excited about our conversations. But the thing I wanted to start with was you brought up the point of, identifying who was really, unavailable.
Mhm.
Could you first describe how do we identify that we're not the one putting it out there, that we're not that we're unavailable because we haven't done our own work? Like, what are the signs within us, and what are the signs within another person that says, "Ooh, this person is putting themselves out there, but they're really not available
Yeah.
emotionally."
Yeah. I mean, once you start doing this work, it becomes very obvious, but these are things we don't think about. And so if I were to say I'm unavailable, or to find something unavailable within myself, it would be exactly what you said. It's like your actions don't match your words. So you're saying, like I've had clients say to me, I'm ready for love. I want a relationship right now. Like I'm ready. And then I would say, okay, how much time do you have to date? Oh, I'm busy. I have this, I have 2 jobs, I've got this and that. I don't know. I maybe one night a week. And then I say, oh, okay, so how many dating apps are you on and how much time do you spend on them? Oh, I just get so tired and stressed when I go on the online dating app. I hate online dating. I just want to find someone organically. And then I say, okay, well, have you been out to any singles events, or have you gone in and networking? Or, no, I don't have time for that. So you can see how when you start to say it and lay it all out, it becomes obvious that you are not available. And that's where you go back and do some work around fears of finding love, fears of being hurt, diving into those limiting beliefs, and then go back and reassess and say, okay, now I'm ready. I'm more ready. And instead of saying, I'm totally available and I'm going to be heart wide open, you can still approach it cautiously and go in, dip your toe in, but being more present and authentic with your toe dipped in versus saying, I'm totally open, but not doing anything about it. So that's your own inner work that you can do. And then once you're ready and you're actually out there and you're saying, I am doing things to find someone, and you come across the unavailable traits, it's different for everyone who's truly going to be unavailable, because it means incompatible in a lot of ways. But the general thing would be the same sort of push pull feelings. So they're not, they'll be inconsistent in their messaging to you. Maybe they'll be like all over it for 2 days and then they don't message you for 3 days. Um, or you go on a date and they're asking you all about you. So this is one that's a very surprising one, because they'll spend the whole date saying, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And you go home and you realize you know absolutely nothing about them. But when you'd been on the date, you were like, oh, they're just so interested in me. Look at all this attention. Like they adore me. And I love this. I'm getting all of this attention. But what's really happening is they're not um, opening up to you, and you don't know one thing about them. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a unavailable red flag right there. So, and
Yeah.
then the most important thing I always say is, how do you feel when you're around the person? Not how do you feel about them? How do you feel within you when you're with them or when you think of them? And if you've got just tons of insecurities, if you feel like, oh, do they like me? Do they not like me? And you're going around in circles, there's some of that is probably coming from them, that they're giving you mixed signals.
Yeah. You touched on something earlier. Like you're dropping all these nuggets of gold that I just want to pick them all up and talk about them. You were originally talking about the organic way people want to find love. And as you were saying that, all I was thinking about were the fairy tales again. You know, the Cinderella with the glass slipper, and the Prince Charming came, and Snow White, the prince came and kissed, and all you had to do was passively be there, and it would just magically happen. Do
Yeah.
you think that that mentality of it should just magically happen is part of that belief system that is disconnecting us? There's nothing in our world that just passively happens. Not in
Yeah.
universal laws, not in building a business, not in buying a house, not even in grocery shopping. We're not passively waiting for the food to just magically arrive.
No. Yeah. It is a disconnect. It's a, societal messaging, and it's unfortunate. I did have a lot of that. Like, I'm going to go out and I'll have my meet cute, in the coffee shop and trip and fall, and some guy's going to catch me, the rom com meet cute. So that is kind of pounded into your head since being a little girl. I mean, that was my experience anyway. And the other thing is the fears that sometimes we don't want to face. So if we're passively saying, I'm going to just say I want a relationship, and I'm going to do the journaling and the crystals and the manifesting, and then I'm not going to go out and I'm going to just wait for them to drop into my lap. There's that fear of being seen, the fear of putting yourself out there, being hurt again. There's so many different fears around that it's like you get to the doorway, but you're afraid to step out. And so
Yeah.
that's what I work with women around, is to take that next step, even if it's dipping your toe in something, or say, I'm going to do this for a certain period of time and do it slowly and steadily rather than jumping out there. But you do need that action. You do need to move towards, you have a heart's desire, but you need to move towards it, and you need to move with that energy. And so that's what creates the magic. The real magic is when you start moving with that energy.
Yes, yes, yes. So you touched on something, but I want to pull it into the universal laws, which is what I talk about all the time. We can, yes, energetically and vibrationally align in our thoughts and our feelings. But if we don't use the universal law of action and
Mhm.
actually take it into the physical movement, we must put action in and take the next right step and the next right step, because it can't happen only in the energetic if we want it in the physical world, right?
Right. Yeah. And the other thing is, if you have some traumas that are in your body, you might not want to be in your body. And so doing the physical action and taking the energy through your body as you take action, that could be one of the reasons you're just like, I'll do everything but be in my body. And that's where we're not connected to our intuition, not connected to our heart, because we're out of our body. And I did that in the sense that I was so empathic and so
Yeah.
intuitive that I was out of my body and trying to insert myself into someone else's experience, put myself so much into someone else's shoes that I was just a shell of myself. I was only there in, spirit. I wasn't in my body, because I was like, well, I need to see what is going to make him like me. I need to figure out how he's feeling right now. How is he dealing with this conflict? Or does he like me? And just getting into their space so much that I would leave my body. And so that's another thing that might stop someone, is like, are you able to really be in your body and feel all these emotions and connect to your heart and your intuition to be able to move forward and move with that energy? I know, hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely. That is the foundation of unlearning the crap, is that we do have a body that is a part of our language system, right? Our emotions are information. They're telling us what's happening inside. Physical disease that is happening when we're misaligned can come up with stomach aches or IBS or headaches, or it lives physically in our body. And if we are not connected to the language of our intuition, the language of our soul, then we are not in alignment with ourselves. And you're right, we're being too empathetic. We're putting ourselves out into someone else's life instead of our own.
Mhm. Yeah. And you can still really pick up on you can be very intuitive from your own body, like from looking like inwards looking out. You don't have to literally put yourself into someone else's shoes. And that's something I had to unlearn because of my childhood growing up in a house where I was meant to always, take care of someone else's emotions or know about someone else's emotions. And I didn't even know what I was or who I was. And so that's a huge thing I had to unlearn. And when I did that, I was able to make the choices. And, with dating and all those things, you just know much more clearly who is meant for you or who you want to give more time to or what feels really good. Who does it feel good to be around? And you know those things much more easily when you're in your body. It's like night and day. So that's even a really big overview thing to focus on that. Are you in your body?
What does that feel like, Eleanor? What does it feel like when we're in our body?
Oh, well, people probably avoid it because it's just all kinds of things. It can feel, you can feel the whole range of human emotions. It can be, you feel the sadness and the anger and jealousy, everything that we have from A to Z. And I always try to say, like, there's no emotion that's bad. The more you can befriend yourself and befriend those emotions and allow them to pass through your body. So you may
Yeah.
feel some unpleasant things. You may feel like, oh, there's that sadness from last year, or I thought I was over that, or I feel this resentment and I don't like being resentful. And it's just really being able to be with yourself no matter what. And on the flip side of that, you can feel immense joy, like the capacity for joy that you might be missing out on by closing things off or not being fully present. Like actually experienced when I got into the deep healing where I would cry from joy, like the poets of the olden days of where you just read this poetry and just cry from the joy of it. And then I was like, what is this? I don't even understand what I'm feeling right now. And it was opening my capacity to feel, and that came from being in my body. So it can be a very unsettling experience because all these things are moving through you, but it feels
Yeah.
so powerful.
Once we know that it's okay to feel, but we live in a society. I've talked about this so many times. The song that absolutely irritates me so much is the song "Comfortably Numb." Because we have created a society where we have numbed down our feelings. So we don't want to feel what we call negative emotions, which are just information to say, hey, you're going in the wrong direction.
Mhm.
And so it's not anything bad that you're feeling it or any judgment. It just means turn around. Head in the
Mhm.
direction of happy. If you're feeling sad or whatever, you're going the wrong way. It's one of those signposts. Um,
Yeah.
but we have not been taught that it's okay to have emotions. And when
Yeah.
we allow ourselves to feel the depth of the dark, we get to also feel the rise of the high, because you
Yeah.
can't feel those moments of joy that you were talking about with poetry and those beautiful little moments that we can capture in our world if we're
Hmm.
too busy numbing out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not as scary as we think either, like this process of being with your feelings. Like it's you can have the most intense feeling that you've ever had, and it would last like 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and then it's actually lost a lot of its charge. And, just witnessing and being with those emotions and allowing them to move through you or give you information, or just they wanna be seen, they wanna be acknowledged. It's a part of you, it's an experience from maybe from the past that just wants to be acknowledged, and as soon as you do that, it's like a release and then so much space for you to start making those choices and get intentional and connect in and deeply, get connected to who you are from all that space that gets left over from releasing these old emotions.
Yeah. Recently, I had an emotion of envy.
Mhm.
Uh, and it was funny because I was able to articulate that it was envy and not jealousy, because I had
Mm.
done the work with Brene Brown's Atlas of Emotions, her whole,
Mhm.
where you learned how to articulate. And so it was funny because I had this moment come up where I felt, I was like, oh, that's not jealousy, because jealousy says, I don't want you to have that. Envy
Mhm.
is, I'm happy you have that and I want it too.
Yeah.
And so I had this moment where I had this feeling, and my first thought was, I'm jealous. And I'm like, no, I'm not jealous. I don't want that person not to have what they have,
Mhm.
but I want it. And as soon as I was able to say, yes, I want that, it
Yes.
gave myself permission to claim a dream and say yes. And
Mhm.
then that whole envious moment of feeling went away, because now I had the knowledge that my body was saying, hey, that's the direction you want to go in.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. That I love that, because the more you can embrace all of these different experiences in your heart and your body, the more you're gonna be equipped with so much wisdom. And, you won't be asking as many questions like, what should I do now? Or should I go on this dating app? Or is this guy the right guy for me? And, it's great to have, to get information from someone else or to get advice, and all of these things is wonderful. But ultimately, you need to be able to answer that for yourself, or be able to know, how do I find out what I want, and how do I find out, what I need, and what should I
Yeah.
do to go in that direction?
Yeah. I want to circle back to one of the points that you had caught my attention with earlier, which was dating apps. You
Mhm.
Do you help your clients articulate the best way to write their profile so that they can start with a place of, this is who I am, and attract what they're actually looking for, instead of attracting from their people pleasing or their self sabotage, or their wounds or anything else?
Yeah. I would say in a more general sense, it's preparing for the date and getting really intentional about what you want, what you're looking for, who's your, unavailable persona, and who's your, I call Mr. Right, and knowing all of these, being armed with all of that information, that you would definitely be able to write a profile for a dating app that would be amazing. But it goes beyond just the profile. It's like how to approach the dating app, how to spend time on it that's gonna be the best, way for you to get what you need and want in a time period without burning out, and how to go on a date, and, determine what you need and want on the date, and then what to do after the date. So it's kind of like a before, during, and after process that encompasses all of those things.
Yes. So, what happens? I know we're almost out of time, and I want to make sure that we capture this. There was a story of a woman police officer that has stayed with me forever. This police officer was in a nasty divorce. And so she came home from work and her spidey sense said, something's wrong. Something's
Mhm.
not right. And she ignored her intuition and she ignored it and she persevered and pushed herself into what was supposed to be. I'm at home. I should feel safe. And she would beat herself up and say, "Don't be ridiculous." She went in the house and her ex-husband beat her up badly. She almost
Mhm.
lost her life. How do we own that moment when we're on a date and we see or feel our intuition that says this is not good, this is not what I want, this is not working? How do we get away from that societal expectation of the good girl complex of just getting through it? And how do we own that moment and say no?
Mhm. So you're saying like the internal dialogue on a date where you feel like you should keep pushing through because you shouldn't not want to be there. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or you just realize that something doesn't feel right, but you're on a
Mhm.
date, so societally pressures say, "I need to shut up and put up,"
Yeah.
and get through this and, be
Mhm.
polite, be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely we've all been in these situations and it can be very difficult, and that's why I focus on the preparation beforehand so that you are really given those tools going into the date where you can navigate through those situations much more easily. And so it would be around, what are my deal breakers? How long am I going to spend on this date? Is it going to be an hour? Like giving yourself those boundaries and parameters beforehand, and going through scenarios like, okay, what do I do if I don't like this person and I want to leave early? What are some things I can say? And, or what if I'm not sure and I just want to kind of leave? What are some of the things that I can say to this person? And preparing yourself, not overly preparing to the point where you're rigid, but having these things in mind are going to help you say, okay, I'm feeling this feeling that I thought about earlier, and I really just want to leave. I can say one of the things that I had prepared myself to say, such as, I really feel like I need to leave, or whatever it is. It could be, I just realized I have to go somewhere else, or whatever. It doesn't really even matter what you're saying. It's just taking that action towards, instead of abandoning yourself, you're giving yourself that care and attention that you need and deserve in a way
Yeah.
that's so kind to others. You don't have to be mean about it. You can say, this has been a really amazing time meeting you, and I really appreciate meeting you, but I'm just going to continue looking and I wish you all the best. And, things like that. It can be very simple but kind, and then exiting, when you need to. So being prepared actually helps you through those situations.
Yes, and giving yourself permission.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, this is gold. Thank you so very much, Eleanor. People who are listening and they want to have the love of their lives. They don't want to keep doing the things that haven't worked, and they want to create their blueprint or their plan, and they want to work with you. How
Mhm.
do they reach you and how do they find you?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a very amazing, expansive, conversation, and I feel like it's gonna help a lot of people. So to get to my website, my business name is truly Eleanor, because that was my, journey to find myself and be true to myself. So it's trulyeleanor.com is my website. And if you go to /Doug, which is DUG, That's my detox unavailable guys challenge. It's a free challenge and it's a workbook, and you go through some of the very important first steps, which is getting clarity on what you don't want, getting clarity on what you want, and then making a commitment and really getting into that space of this is what I'm declaring to the universe. So it's a really powerful exercise and a free challenge that you can get at my website, trulyeleanor.com /
Wonderful.
Doug. Yeah.
And don't you have a podcast as well?
And I do have a podcast. Yes. Stop Chasing Unavailable Guys. On my website, there's a podcast tab there, and you can go and listen to 2 seasons of all my best dating advice, the things that we need to avoid, and um, getting away from those pitfalls and getting involved with people we don't want to get involved with, and all of those kind of things is all what I base that podcast on. So that if you go to my website, there is the podcast tab there as well.
Wonderful. Eleanor, thank you so very much for this important conversation. I am so
Thank you.
happy that you unlearned your crap and found the love of your life and are living your best life through leveling up and helping others do the same through the journey of finding love and finding the best relationship. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kathy. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I really appreciate the space that you have created for this conversation.
My pleasure. Until next time, continue to unlearn your crap so you can level up because your soul is calling you. Until next time. Thank you for listening to the Unlearn the Crap and Level Up podcast. If this conversation spoke to you, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and leave a review. That simple act helps amplify this important work of unlearning the crap that holds us back. This show is built on the foundation of my 3 books: Unlearn the Crap and Level Up, Your Soul is Calling, a roadmap to release what no longer serves you. How I Unlearned My Crap, which is my raw story of breaking free and the patterns that I needed to unlearn. And the 3rd book, The Unlearned Life, an AI-powered ritual system for truth transformation and personal empower. If you're a podcaster or you want to be, this is for you because 85% of podcasts fail, not because of the message isn't powerful enough, but because the back end can be overwhelming. I created the Finally Podcast automation system so your voice doesn't become a statistic. Your message is too important to be silenced by burnout, tech chaos, or even wasted time. My mission is to support not only my guests and you, the audience, but also every podcaster who's ready to level up. So until next time, keep unlearning, keep leveling up,